Okay, this presentation or experiment that was completed was titled The Effectiveness of Name Brand Hand Sanitizer Compared to the Effectiveness of Off-Brand Hand Sanitizer. Okay, so just a little background about the experiment. So it's very important to wash your hands in order to prevent the spread of infection and keep yourself healthy. So the main way to prevent yourself from getting sick or spread infection is to wash your hands, whether it be with soap and water or using hand sanitizer that contains 60% alcohol, which the CDC discussed. It's very important to wash your hands all the time, but especially before eating, before and after caring for someone who is sick, after going to the bathroom, coughing, or sneezing. So if you do not have soap and water present, hand sanitizer may be used. However, it should not be used if your hands are visibly soiled. So when your hands are not visibly soiled, hand sanitizer can be used and be just as effective as soap and water. So if hand sanitizer can be used, which would be the best option? An off-brand hand sanitizer that would potentially be cheaper than a name brand hand sanitizer that could be more expensive. So in this experiment, the question was asked, does the name brand hand sanitizer Germ-X inhibit the growth of more organisms on the hands than off-brand hand sanitizer equate? So before completing the experiment, it was thought that the name brand hand sanitizer would inhibit the growth of more organisms on the hands than off-brand hand sanitizer. So in order to test this hypothesis, both types of hand sanitizers were used, and then the hands were swabbed to determine the growth on the hands. So in order to carry out this experiment, the materials were obtained, which were 8 nutrient agar plates, 1 bottle of each Germ-X and Equate, and a 5 milliliter pipette. So first, the right 3 middle fingers that were unwashed were placed on one half of a plate, and then the 3 milliliters of Germ-X was measured into the right hand, and then the hand sanitizer was rubbed into the right hand until it was completely dry. And once it was completely dry, the right 3 middle fingers were placed on the other half of the same plate that the dirty fingers were placed on earlier. So then the same steps that I just stated were used for the left hand with the Equate hand sanitizer on a different agar plate. So there were 4 group members in this experiment, so there were 4 different sets of data. After the fingers were placed on the agar plates, they were incubated for 24 hours, and then after being incubated, the number of colonies on each half plate was counted and then recorded. So the objective of this experiment was to discover if name brand Germ-X inhibited more growth on the hands than off-brand hand sanitizer Equate. So after the colonies were counted, the averages were found for both 4 plates, and that is what is shown in the graph here. So the Germ-X had an average of 80 colonies before and 10 colonies after the Germ-X hand sanitizer was used. And the Equate had an average of 100 colonies before and 28 after the Equate hand sanitizer was used. So the difference between the before and after for the Germ-X was 70 colonies, and the difference between the Equate was 72 colonies. So these are pictures of the plates that were used in this experiment before or after they were incubated. So it is shown in these pictures. You can see the distribution of the colonies, and also how many colonies were on each of the plates. So from the results, it is shown that there's no significant difference in the amount of bacteria that was inhibited when using either name brand Germ-X or the use of off-brand Equate hand sanitizer. So it was previously hypothesized that name brand Germ-X would inhibit more growth of organisms on the hands than off-brand Equate hand sanitizer. But after completing the experiment, it was found that the hypothesis was not supported. This hypothesis could have been unsupported because there is no difference in the active ingredients in the Germ-X hand sanitizer and the Equate hand sanitizer. Both of the hand sanitizers contain 60% alcohol. So an alternate hypothesis that could be used for both on-brand and off-brand will is that they will inhibit the growth of about the same number of organisms. So in a study completed by Meadows and Saw, they discussed that hand sanitizers are a good option for school-age kids in order to prevent the spread of infection as long as the hands are not visibly soiled in place of water and soap. So they explained that the hand sanitizer does need to be 60% alcohol to have the maximum effect. And in the experiment that was completed, there could have been a lot of errors that could have happened, whether it be with counting colonies or the contamination while putting the hands on the plates. So that could have skewed the results. So while there could have been errors in this experiment, it is concluded that on-brand and off-brand hand sanitizer inhibits similar amounts of growth on the hands, but according to Besser, hand sanitizer is just as or more effective than using soap and water if hands are not visibly soiled.